we're in the peak of good living here in Central Virginia, so I'm in good spirits. How about you?
Man, nothing but good things to say. I woke up this morning to great weather outside. Still, I did get a heater recently. So just briefly, I'll tell you, I wanted when we put the master edition onto our house, I really wanted to put a fireplace, and I didn't get it. Didn't make the cut because saw it was going to be too much. My wife, so glad that she has a brain where it seems like sometimes I'm lacking one, but she's like, Josh, that's a little excessive right now.
Uh,
And I said okay. So, but I was able to get a heater. It's a
I'm
standing
imagining
heater.
you've got a heater with a video of a flickering fire just right above it, so you're getting the best of both worlds here.
That's right. And you know what I had with me? I had a
Yeah.
Waffle House mug of coffee. Hey,
Lo-
I noticed that you commented on a recent post about Waffle House and the nostalgia of it, the fun I was having with my dad just in conversation. But I thought that was cool that we connect on that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a good one. It's such a funny place, and everything from the Waffle House Index, which people use in hurricane situations. Here, we're in Central Virginia in Charlottesville. The idea for Reddit was invented at our local Waffle House, so it's more than just your scattered, smothered, and covered in semi-terrible coffee. It's a cool spot for us, and yeah, no, it prompted me to think all kinds of things, and I loved your post.
Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. Well, hey, I really appreciate just you joining today to have a conversation. Um, one of the biggest things that I'm wanting to accomplish in my role as a professional, and I'm sure you are as well, and I've definitely seen that over the years. I think we met when I was working for Cloud Factory, and definitely lots of areas of AI that's relatable in different fields and the different roles you've had. But just for our audience listening and the folks on LinkedIn, Saul currently serves as a coach and an instructor at a local college. He's an invited instructor at the University of Virginia. And I'll tell you, his dedication to education and mentorship reflects his commitment to empowering individuals to reach their full potential, aligning perfectly with our theme today, becoming your own coach. And definitely want to get into that. But Saul, want to give you a chance to say anything before we jump in.
Yeah, Josh, that's super kind. Thank you for the introduction. And look, at the end of the day, where I get fulfillment is taking whether it's an individual or an organization from here to where they want to be. And for me, that is absolutely it just fires me up. It's what I think about. It's how do I help them get to where they want to be? And sometimes that's a one conversation, and sometimes that's years of coaching and mentorship. So for me, that's a big deal. And it's where I spend every day, all day, thinking about whether that's on a sports pitch or whether that's in a corporate setting. I just truly enjoy that environment. So thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, we are having a conversation here on self-directed learning and professional development. The goal here is for the marketplace on LinkedIn to receive a little bit of value. And so we're going to jump right in. Um, First question, Saul, what role does self-directed learning play in professional growth?
Yeah. Here's my simple take on that. It's a great question, which is I believe more than ever, people need to own their own progress, whether that's a career track, whether that's skill building. And, we used to rely on the education system. We used to rely on corporations supporting people in a long-term development. But I think that whether you're responsible for a team or an organization or you're just your own career, that self-direction and owning it yourself is a big deal. And here's the thing about that. You are now the person that owns assessing where you are and where you want to be. And then you are also responsible for finding the partners and the tools that are along the way to get you from here to there. And it's a simple idea, and it is really complex. And I will just throw my 2 cents of assessment here. Most people lack the clarity and the accountability to do that well, without some deep thought, some deep relationships and partnerships, and the right tools. It is easy to say, and it is hard to do.
Yeah, clarity. So many different things, Saul, that I heard you just say that connects with current things I'm going through. I don't know how much I want to jump into some of that vulnerability at the moment, but maybe a future chat, idea just popped in my head. But here's what I will say: focus. The path to getting focus is messy. It's not cookie cutter. It doesn't look like a cookie cutter home in a cookie cutter neighborhood,
Yeah.
everything looking picture perfect. There's trial, there's error, you get it wrong more than you get it right. And that's the other thing for me, just being okay with the learning process, including lots of failed attempts to get to that point where I finally understand something. Um, and but when you
Yeah.
talk about focus, that's where my mind goes, is the work it takes to get focused.
And Josh, if I could just jump in, and we often will talk about the importance of failure or failing fast and learning from that. But I almost feel like we do ourselves a disservice when we use the word failure, because to me,
Mhm.
failure is a symptom of movement and progress. And if you're
Ooh,
not doing that, you're likely just stagnating. And so it's like we feel like somehow that these failures are, you're off a track or whatever. And maybe, but like if we let that slow us down, and if we try to avoid failure, I just think that at a human level, it's a disservice to ourselves. So I really try to encourage sort of reframing that process.
yeah, I totally agree. Wow, Saul, I'm really glad that you said it that way. And to that point, I think each one of these conversations, this being just one of many that's happening right now, um, I learn a little bit more. And I think if we're open to that, awareness for ourselves and the people around us will become a lot easier. Just that openness to it. Wow, that was cool. Great chat there. Next question: um, how can organizations best support employees in becoming their own coaches?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a tricky one, and again, in this sort of what I'll call the current world, what we don't have is super long-term, well-defined career tracks in most cases. What we have is an opportunity for organizations to think about, how do I provide the right feedback? And we mentioned clarity earlier. It's rare, I believe, today that we're seeing the kind of feedback that is truly helpful. If you get feedback that says, hey, you're 3 out of 5, that's not going to be useful for you making progress. If you get the kind of feedback that says, hey, here are some areas that you will need to develop if you want to progress toward a next level, or toward an executive role, or whether you're bringing your team forward, that clarity in terms of feedback is a big piece. And then, of course, another piece here is the tools. Whether it's recommendations or people to provide accountability, or whether it's formal training settings that organizations can provide those series and ongoing action and partnership steps to bring people forward. Those are places that don't need to be massive investments, but they do need to be very intentional. And again, I think a clarity of both where you are and where you're going would be the sort of the anchor points for me. And I think it's exceedingly rare. I think it's exceedingly rare that we're thinking beyond just, how do I fight the fires of today and get through my 17 meetings that are on my calendar.
That is very true. Um, it's interesting, Saul. I'm a dad, happy dad, actually. I've got a hat, by the way,
Also
that
rare.
says I've got a hat that says happy dad. I didn't know it said something else, but anyways, you can't see it in pictures. But anyways, I still wear it. I love it. But here's the thing. I have so many competing priorities, Saul.
Yeah. Yeah.
how do I pick which one? And what do we tell the organizations on where to focus? Like in your professional opinion, you you you're pretty successful, Saul. Like where would you tell folks to start?
Yeah, and I'll just take a second to sort of honor your position here, which is I'm also a dad of two teenagers, and one, I'm clearly wrong every day. I think we get reinforced in that position, and we make mistakes every day. And clearly, there's some sort of teenage fire or some sort of fire that can be distracting every day. And I think one of the challenges, as you've led us toward, is trying to find that prioritization and trying to find that balance between the moment and then thinking about the future. I'll be candid and say I think this is really the differentiator. Whether if you think about athletes who are making long-term progress versus just trying to sort of do well or have a great workout. I think these are the things that in a corporate setting differentiate organizations who make long-term progress versus hit a quarterly target. I think these are hard things. So I just want to just say that for a second. Here's my mantra, Josh, on this, which is the phrase "keep going," and that is specifically be mindful of where you're trying to go and keep going. Because every day is going to be a battle. You're going to have that step back. You're going to have that step sideways. You're going to have the 5 steps back. But if you keep going with that focus and that clarity on where you're going, I think it's a big deal. But there's no magic here. Like I'm not going to in any way suggest that I have the prioritization tool or lens that will solve everybody's unique challenges. It's a big deal, And I want to put that. I want to elevate that as, if I'm working with somebody, helping them find the way that they're going to do that in a very practical way for themselves.
Yeah,
starts with coffee. Starts with coffee, Josh. Let's start there.
It does, and 4 eggs and a half avocado. Here's the thing: I am not. I say that laughing, but it's true. It's preparation, and when you start looking at each one of the different areas of your life and the things that support or take away, help or don't help. It starts to add up, but little things you can do every day. And that's what I'm trying to get to, Saul. I love that you say keep going. It really comes down to being able to put rhythms in place.
Yeah.
Because you've already decided what you want to do. What do you want to accomplish? And what are the rhythms? What are the critical actions every day that's going to contribute to that? And if you just keep going with those critical actions, I'll tell you one story. So at the beginning of this year, this is me being a little vulnerable. Shout out to Brene Brown. You definitely have made an impact on my life. Anyways, but at the beginning of the year, I started getting a little overweight. Here's the thing, I have a lot of meals in my job, especially when I worked with SHI, but had a lot of meals and you eat a lot. And so before you know it, if you're not having self-awareness, what tends to happen is, well, you gain weight. And that's what happened to me. I was up to 196 and saw, not to dote on myself, but to prove the point of simply following rhythms. I hired a coach. This is a shout out to Matt Hart. By the way, he's made a huge impact on my life. But each week he gives me a diet plan and he gives me a workout plan. And for whatever reason, Saul, I'm able to just go check out, accomplish it. Now, I've been doing that for 6 months. I'm down to 146 with accomplishing more than the goals that I've originally stated, right?
Yeah.
And yeah. I'm focused, I'm healthy, and what that's doing is it's maximizing now all the other spheres. It's feeding energy to all of my spheres. I'm all of a sudden a better communicator to my wife, Saul, a better dad to my kids, and a better employee at Fastlane. Saul.
And just to play it back, because I love these stories are, they're success stories, but like just to take it away from just the simple numbers to, you knew where you were, you knew what you wanted to do, and then every day you're behaving differently and you're doing things. And look at that, you have an accountability partner, you have a plan, like you have all these really cool ingredients. And I think, as you're pointing out, that overflows into all these other things. So you can't overstate sort of how important that set of steps was for you. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way,
Well,
I'm fascinated because you're also, you're a musician, and I just think about when I think about keep going, like, every musician's trying to just keep on that rhythm, and it's got to be that you miss beats and notes, right? And if your brain got stuck on that every time, if every failure you just you were like, well, hold on, let me go back and like literally analyze that. You're not playing music and you're certainly not playing with a band. You're stuck. So like I have to believe that your brain is well rehearsed on we're going to keep going here. Right.
yeah, I've got a really close friend of mine. His name is Dale Baker, which, by the way, guys, get ready. Sixpence None the Richer's on tour, and you need to go out and see them. They've got that hit song, Kiss Me, da, 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 da. Anyways, go listen to them, search for it, Sixpence None the Richer. They're on tour right now. But anyways, this guy is one of the best drummers I've ever met, Dale Baker. And here's the thing, if you hire him to come play at any show, he's going to show up having literally planned out every hit, every stroke, the way he's going to make that stroke to emulate whatever it is you're asking him to play, right? If you're asking him to create something, he's going to go ahead and do the same detail with actually writing it from scratch. When he shows up to set, he's going to be on time, prepared, before time, right? On time is before time still. But he's going to show up and he's going to be so prepared, right? That when you get into a moment where Josh deviates from the music we planned to play, he can dynamically shift. He's not so rigid, right? And it sounds like areas that I want to be in my job, right? Not so rigid that I can't shift. But here's the thing, the preparation. It's those critical actions every day that you're doing that's enabling you now to be a creative when it counts, when you're in the boardroom and you're needing to pivot. I'm talking way too much, Saul. This is not how you run. This is not how you run a sales call, but you're getting me excited, Saul. So this is a conversation for sure. So I want to hear from you, but we will move on. I think that's enough. I
love your Dale story. By the way, I'm humbled because I just love the image of this person who's just locked in but also flexible, which is like that's like the dream state of this. I just love that. Yeah.
It is 100%. All right, next question. What resources are most effective for individuals taking charge of their learning journey?
Yeah. Yeah, and Josh, I'm going to start with just I'm going to start with a sports one here, just to sort of, because it's one of my favorite areas to talk about, because the process of progression is so visual and immediate. And so then I'll sort of jump into a sort of broader piece here, which is in the sports context. If we go back to clarity of sort of what is it you're trying to do? Are you trying to run a 5-minute mile? Are you trying to run a marathon? Are you trying to bench press 400 pounds? Whatever the thing is, do you have that clarity? And it begins then the process of, what are the tools and the resources and the accountability that I'm going to need to do that? And in a sports context, it's very clear whether you're making that kind of progress or not. And are you scoring more goals? Are you running faster? And so as a sports coach, I can kind of really just see that. And for me, that's super fulfilling, because in the corporate setting, and now if we go to that place, that journey can be less direct. It is very often less direct. And so if we think about resources, I think about how can we provide both the short-term and the long-term clarity. If you're responsible for a quota, you've got both the pipeline and then the close rate, and those things that are sort of both short-term and long-term. And are we thinking about those things? If we're thinking about a technology shift, especially today, we're helping organizations go from very much descriptive analytics to predictive analytics. Often, that can be a very wandering journey. Maybe you take just one analytic process and you sort of, hey, we're going to change this one. but how do we do that? And then how do we parlay that into other things? So coming up with what I'll think of as maybe a roadmap as part of those resources. And, that can be tools, that can be a partner, that can be a technology suite. There are things there, and it's hard to sort of say, okay, here's the one way that gets done. But I think you get the point here. From my perspective, there's these steps that go along the way, that whether that's a 1 day or a 1 year or a multi-year journey, you can still have that clarity on if you have the right tools. But Josh, the piece I would just keep pushing back to is there's got to be people who are listeners. There's got to be people who are truly partnered with you in that journey. I don't think a stopwatch is the things that makes people faster by itself. So I really, I appreciate the way that you listen. I appreciate the way, the people that are out there that are truly, empathetic to the journey and recognize like, hey, progress is hard. Real progress is really hard. And I think those people are fundamentally coupled with the resources and the tools and the technologies that do that. So sorry, that's a long-winded answer, but I gotta, I just have to sort of anchor on, there's people and there's process and there's technology, but if we leave out the people, I think we're going to miss it.
That's the thing. And here's the thing. So I've heard that since I started my career, right? Since I decided I wasn't going to be a guy sitting on a couch just playing a video game. Nah, I'm still playing video games now with my son, but it's a Game Boy, by the way.
Amazing.
Old school.
Yeah.
Again, nostalgia. But here's the thing. Crucial things, right, that we're talking about. It's things that we're dealing with every day. And all I'm trying to say is we have got to have awareness of these things every day and where we're at with them, because I can have a goal to get something done, but if I'm not knocking away at it, right, it's not going to happen. Okay, so that point, want to recap some of the takeaways. Saul, you shared your insights on self-directed learning, on professional development. I think we've covered some important aspects of how individuals can empower themselves and how organizations can support that journey. For next steps, I love it. My last manager, he would always say, what are reasonable next steps? Shout out, you know who you are. But seriously, what's some reasonable next steps from this? We talked key points that we talked about were importance of self-directed learning, organizational support, effective learning resources, and having a long-term vision. So what's some good next steps we could leave folks with, Saul?
Yeah, I there's two pieces here. One of them, I think you gave us the gift of thinking about preparation, and I think again, preparation is sort of like the word underwhelms the importance of it, which is it's not just a little bit that you do beforehand before the main event. The preparation in many cases is the thing that gets you ready for, whether it's in an athletic context or a professional context. The prep is everything in a lot of cases. So, I do believe that. What are the people, what are the tools, what are the change in processes that are going to help people be more well prepared or prepare for events? I can't tell if you're left-handed or right-handed because we're both mirrored here. So I'm like just trying to figure out like which hand is he writing with. So that's number one. And then number two, clarity. I think that if we can think about that clarity and really thinking about what is the measure. Sometimes we talk about KPIs. I think that's a little bit too narrow here, but what is the clarity we need to help us think about progressing? Do I need better tools? Do I need better measures? Do I need a team that's going to help us develop that clarity on the progress we're looking for? And then I'm just going to humanize the last piece here, which is to keep going. I think we need to think about what are the things I need to do, whether that's avocado toast or the right coffee or whatever, so that I can help every day. That's just, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to keep going toward that very difficult goal. If it was easy, you'd already be there.
So here's the thing, man. Monday, and I'm excited. Like
Uh-oh.
from this conversation, you got me
Yeah, it's
so
great.
excited. You say preparation is the thing. For my whole life, Saul, for my whole life, I've been just like many, many other people that I've seen, many other examples I've been given. And that is, we want, but we don't really want
Mm,
what it takes to get there.
mm,
Now, my question is, let's all ask that question to ourselves. What do we want?
mm.
What do I want? What does Josh McDonald want? What does Saul Yeaton want? And actually be honest
Yeah.
with yourself.
Yeah.
All right, well, here's what it's going to take to get there. Do you want it still? And if
Yep.
you do, and you become you fall in love with the preparation, if you can fall in love with the journey to get there, so not only are you going to end up at the end of your life loving what you've created, but you're going to love every day of it. And that's where I'm headed, Saul. That's where Fastlane's headed. I know that's where you're headed, Saul. I really do. I've seen it for a long time now. And I just get excited that I can be a part of even little things along the way that you're doing, Saul. So thanks for being a part of this today.
Yeah.
And I know all of LinkedIn also thanks you. Yeah.
Yeah, Josh, thank you. And you know, I just want to play back something you said, because I think this is why people like you are so important in the progress journey, which is, if you love what you do, if you're really clear on where you're trying to go, preparation is no longer a chore you're going to be excited about. That's a great litmus test for, you know, and people like you who might challenge you to say, yeah, you say you want to do this, but I haven't seen you prepare for it in the last 3 weeks in any kind of way, or make any kind of material change. I'm going to challenge you and say, I'm not sure that you truly want that. And for somebody who's going to be that lens of clarity and partner with them. So Josh, you know, I appreciate that from you. It's something that's clarifying thoughts in my head, because you know, 2 steps there. One is, you know, that preparation is so important, but maybe that's our lens for, if we're not willing to truly prepare, maybe we're aiming at the wrong spot.
You know, we started with the question, how can organizations best support employees in becoming their own coaches? Well, I like to start with myself, right? I just joined Fastlane. All right. If how can an organization, my question is, focus on yourself first. You
Mm,
want the organization to be a certain way, focus on yourself first. Okay. How can I best support myself in becoming my own coach? How can I do that, Saul? I can start by a little bit of self awareness right now, right? You want to be your own coach? You want a sustainable model? Learn how to learn. Learn how to read a book. I read that. That was my first book I ever read, Mortimer Adler. But become your own coach. That's our message to you. Be a student of your profession. Be a student of life. Enjoy life by enjoying the journey, by enjoying the process. Saul, thanks for being here again.
so good. Thank you, Josh.
All right, we'll see you.
Yep. Take care.